It's a cool, beautiful 27 degrees in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning and welcome to your daily dose of sunshine, Sunrise Daily. I'm Maokwe Ogunyusuf.
Amaya Makinde, good morning and welcome. Well, it's 28 degrees in Lagos and God knows what it's going to be as the day unfolds. And yes, you're right. Seems the weather is generally similar around here in the city of Lagos and in Abuja, not too far from each other. So I say welcome. Today is April 17. Markwe, I'm taking you this morning to Abeokuta Golf Course. Yes, that's where we're going. We're staying in southern Nigeria this morning and let people see that, hey, this is Abeokuta Golf Course. Whatever you are going to look for, as the Yorubas will say, whatever you're going to look for in Sokoto is in your pocket. Well, the simile is in the pronunciation of the word pocket in Yoruba language. It's Shokoto. But so whatever you're going to look for in Sokoto is in your Shokoto. That is, it's right there in your pocket. So you need a golf course anywhere in Ogun State, don't go too far. It's right there in the capital city of Abeokuta, the Abeokuta Golf Course. And you can see its serenity away from all of the the brown roofs and all that you see. This is the lush green Abeokuta Golf Course. I'm sure, Mark, you have a thing or two to add, because I understand that it has some kind of some kind of recreational center as well.
Precisely, but you know, Ayo, you cannot take it away from, you know, the communities surrounding Lagos, from the states surrounding Lagos, that they have been able to preserve a huge part of their natural reserves. So while, yes, Abeokuta, I beg your pardon, Ogun State has been trying to be that support to Lagos and benefit from the economic activities going on in Lagos and also become an industrial hub, you know, in its own right. It's also making sure that it has facilities like this. But for those who are a little tired of the city, maybe don't want to go too far, certainly we will recommend this. And, you know, it's just about time, because we're entering the public holiday season. Tomorrow will be Good Friday, and there will also be Easter Monday, as the federal government has also declared. So just in case you're wondering, this golf club, established in 1987, sitting on 49 hectares, a 72-par golf course, we understand, with lush green vegetation, as you can clearly see, might be a great place to unwind for the adults, and maybe for children too, who want to start learning about golf. The question will be whether the daddies and mummies will want to take them, or whether they have other things on site that might interest the children. But just in case you're wondering where it is, as Ayo has highlighted, is in Okimosan, just behind the governor's office, we understand. So it might be worth an adventure, just in case you're wondering. I guess they have telephone numbers online. But yes, enough marketing for the golf course. I think it's just the serenity that is getting to us. Ayo, do you think you might take up golf at any point in your life?
I have tried hockey. No, did I try hockey? No. Cricket. I've tried cricket, and but the sheer size and weight of the golf ball is enough to scare me away in case I get hit in the head. Besides, I'm too impatient for golf. I don't know, maybe it just doesn't have enough action for me. But yes, you're right. I mean, one visit to Okimosan, right, you know, as you have said, right here, is definitely something anyone will want to check out, because life is short. Life is short. Make the most of it. Jumping all around, looking for things to do, meeting needs is good. But then you can run dry, run yourself up the wall, and not even know what it is that you have achieved at the end of the day. So take some time off. And we hear some people say golf is for networking and everything. Fine, whatever, you know, takes your fancy. But who says you yourself don't need this kind of relationship? So I agree with you, Mark. It's a good place to take the family this weekend and let mommy or daddy, or both of them, go have some fun in this 17 or 18-hole golf course in Abeokuta, Ogun State.
Well, we've taken all of that in while you make your plans for the holidays, which we hope will be a good one. The reality in many parts of the country, especially in the north central region, continues to worry many people. Yesterday, we saw for the second time the governor of Plateau State address his state the second time in 1 week over the state of insecurity in the state. I mean, don't forget that 2 days ago he had visited Ziki community, which had experienced another carnage, apologizing to them and saying some significant things that they will expect that very soon communities will be able to defend themselves. But yesterday in a statewide broadcast, he did put together some measures saying what the state itself intended to do. There were measures such as no night grazing, no movement of motorcycles after a certain time. While he was making his own announcements in Plateau State, his counterpart in Benue also made the announcement that 3 people had been arrested. According to him, initially 5 of them were arrested in connection with the killings in Otobi community in Otupo local government area. 2 escaped much later. 3 were confirmed as being in custody of the security agencies. Now, whether all of this will eventually guarantee the security of the people in both Plateau and in Benue State, we'll wait to see. But clearly, the governors of the state understand their role. They seem to be showing that they understand their role in making sure that the people of their state feel safe. That's a conversation we'll be getting to much later, well, in just a moment this morning. But here's what the governor of Plateau State had to say yesterday. We'll be asking security experts what they make of this in just a moment. But listen to the report.
The last couple of days have been agonizing for the people and government of Plateau State. Communities have suffered devastating attacks that have left many dead, more injured, and much more displaced.
I stand resolved.
In its efforts to restore calm and provide assurance, the state governor, through a state broadcast, addressed residents of the state.
Plateau shall not be overrun by fear, nor shall we accept this culture of bloodshed as the new normal. My administration is intensifying efforts to protect our people and enforce the rule of law across all local governments. But let me reassure you, my government is alive to its constitutional responsibility of protecting lives and property, and we are rising to the occasion more determined than ever.
He also outlined some measures to prevent further attacks.
To restore calm and strengthen vigilance, I hereby announce the following measures effective Wednesday, April 16th. Night grazing of cattle is strictly prohibited. Transportation of cattle by vehicle is banned after 7 p.m. The use of motorcycles is restricted from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. across the state until further notice. We are also activating community-based response systems. I urge the traditional leaders and youth associations to reactivate local vigilante groups and organize night patrols in coordination with the security agencies.
Following the orders of the governor in the broadcast, the State Interreligious Advisory Council convened an emergency meeting as a prelude to engagement with stakeholders to look into the incessant attacks.
If what we have agreed in the Council Administration for peace to reign in Ghana and for this state to come is very representative. We have invited those who are concerned, who signed their agreement to come to brief us, brief this country on why this happened. Because we can't sit, agree on something. It took us a long time to come to that agreement. And for this to be wrong, it's a serious thing.
A special envoy on peace to lead grassroots consultations and intelligence coordination is to be appointed by the governor to complement the efforts of the Interreligious Council as part of steps to address the lingering issue.
And so this is a situation that we have had, that in the last 2 weeks, over 144 people documented have lost their lives in both Plateau and Benue states. We'll be speaking right now with retired captain of the U.S. Army, Bish Johnson, who is a security expert, who joins us virtually about these issues, what he makes of these incessant killings. Captain Bish Johnson, good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm sure you must have been paying attention to these issues and wondering when these things will stop. But from your own estimation, what would you say has gone wrong once more for us to see a resurgence of these killings?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. We've been on this issue of insecurity in Nigeria for quite a long period of time. In fact, as a matter of fact, I had to take a break a little bit because we keep having the same conversation over and over again, and the same thing keep happening. See, the problem is that the insecurity in Nigeria, particularly Plateau, Benue State, the Middle Belt area, is far beyond just that of the responsibility of security agencies. There are much deeper issues that need to be addressed in those areas. It seems that all of the governance structures in Nigeria, not just the Middle Belt, had broken down. I listened to the governor's address, though I didn't quite get the part that I think was more relevant in addressing this issue from my own perspective, and that is the issue of activating community-based efforts. You see, we can't get away from that. We can never run away from ensuring that local governance structures remain intact. And I continue to say that. Until we can make local government areas effective, because the state governor cannot be everywhere, the president can't be everywhere, security agencies can't be everywhere, and security is everybody's business. Until we can ensure that our local government areas are functioning effectively like they used to function before. There used to be a time that you have no business going to your state capital because all of the governance issues that you require in your life are addressed for you effectively at the local government level. Until we can get to that point, we will continue to run into all these problems that we are having right now. We don't want to tell ourselves the truth. The truth is that all of our local-based governance structures have broken down. The local government structure is broken down. The traditional rulers are not functioning as they used to function before. They have been politicized. Our religious leaders are no longer playing the kind of roles that they used to play before. Community development committees, youth associations, all these things are no longer as effective as they used to be before. They have all been politicized. Politicians have hijacked them and they installed their studios in some of all these places, and that is why we see the problems that we are seeing right now. So we have to take the bull by the horn and begin to address some of these local governance structures if we want to restore Nigeria to the past glories that it used to be before when we were growing up.
It's very significant that you said that. I mean, and we're looking at the battle that we've faced in trying to get funding to the local governments in the bid to wake them up. And we've seen the pushback that has been witnessed. It's unclear, what is going to happen now, because it does appear that there's a stalemate in that direction. But some people will say, in spite of the challenges that we've faced in, getting local governments back on their feet, there has been relative calm and quiet in some of these areas before we now started to see a resurgence. It cannot just all be tied to local governance, can it?
It's not just only local governance. All of the various levels of government have to play their role. The federal, states and the local. And also with the civil societies, the population, security agencies. You see, none of all these people can achieve total peace in any part of any country in the world. It requires collective effort, everybody working together, the government providing governance, the citizens providing followership, good followership, enforcing the laws, regardless of whose horse is God, and removing politics is most of all these things. I can tell you, for example, that if you look at local government, you see what has been happening with local government elections. Every time there's a local government election, it's only the party of the governor that wins all the seats. They win, if it's 1 million local government chairman, they win all 1 million. If it's 1 billion councillors, it's the governor's party that wins all the 1 billion councillors. And you begin to ask yourself, how is that possible? So all these things have been politicized. And because they have been politicized, the people who are popular with the communities don't seem to emerge when it comes to the local government. And even in the case of traditional institutions, they have also been politicized. There's hands of government and politicians in selecting who becomes a traditional ruler and who doesn't become. And sometimes they are imposed on these people. And all these things are flashing points to some of the problems that we are having. The same thing with CDC chairman and youth association. Nothing happens by the will of the people. You see, power has to have legitimacy derived from somewhere. And legitimacy to power comes from the people. When you have a situation where authorities or powers are imposed on the people, they will resist. And sometimes the resistance takes the forms of this kind of violence that you see. So it's a deep-rooted, complex structure that requires multifaceted approach, not just security-wise or security agents, not just the president, not just the governor. It requires everybody playing a role, their own role. Everybody has a role to play. It's like a symbiotic community where everybody is playing a role that everybody is benefiting from, and that is when you have a cohesive and peaceful society.
I tell you that my colleague Ayo has been a major champion for local government autonomy on the program over the years, and I know he certainly has questions to ask you. Ayo.
Thank you, Malcolm. There was something, Captain, it's good to see you again. There was a question that I wanted to ask our guest yesterday. The reason for the emergency declaration the emergency rule in River State was unrest, was signs of imminent unrest or violence or danger or whatever. That is enshrined in the Constitution. Now, the Constitution also provides that if there is any such thing, and the president can also declare a state of emergency to address issues. I remember in 2004, it was for the same reason that the president of the day declared a state of emergency to regulate things in that environment. The president, the current president, has made some comments. But first of all, do you see a ground, because it seems to be a repetitive situation, once in Plateau, and then another one not too far away in Benue State. Do you see a reason for a call for a state of emergency by some?
Well, look, the state of emergency happens everywhere around the globe. I can't even count the number of times that the former president of the US, Joe Biden, declared the state of emergency in various parts of the United States. The reason why state of emergency is declared is to remove some bureaucratic bottlenecks and allow government to be able to deploy assets and resources to tackle a specific problem. Now, for the US, for example, when they have hurricanes or tornadoes that we are going to, wreak havoc on their various communities, the president declares state of emergency to eliminate some bureaucratic bottlenecks that will now enable them to marshal out resources and assets and channel them to that area. The same thing can be done here in Nigeria. Unfortunately, when we see state of emergency declaration in Nigeria as a reason to dismantle democratic, institutions that are actually supposed to work hand in hand with the government at the center to ensure that these assets and resources are appropriately applied to solve the problem. A state of emergency declaration does not necessarily entail the dismantling of democratic institutions, because you need those democratic institutions to work hand in hand in whatever measures that you're trying to put in place to tackle that problem. Yeah, a state of emergency can be declared in some of all these hot spots if it is not going to require the removal of the dismantling of democratic institutions, because those democratic institutions are vital to helping government to curb whatever problem is trying to curb there.
Okay,
if you
Captain,
dismantle democratic institutions, they will fight back, and you find yourself back in the same position where, or they will sabotage your effort.
My apologies,
so
Captain. It would seem like you know, the issue is becoming unnecessarily repetitive. The president said in a statement, and I believe it will also come on screen for you to see in a short while. He said, and I quote, "We cannot allow this devastation and the tit-for-tat attacks to continue. Enough is enough." That's from the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. What does that tell you?
Well, I've read that statement as was publicized by the spokesperson to the president. You know, Ayo, we have had this kind of statements issued over and over again. Even in the previous administration, there were similar statements of this nature, even the one before that administration. What we really need is action. We need action. And that action, I've had, you know, even in that same statement, they say that the governor should try to solve that problem. These problems are far beyond the governors themselves alone. I think the governors also do also need some federal assistance. So what I'm thinking that ought to happen is that all of the levels of government and all of the facets of the society have to come together. I didn't hear the other part of the statement, the address from the governor of Plateau State. I think he was going in that direction. We have to get the people involved. The people are part of they're part of the problem, so they should also be part of the solution to the problem. But the government has to provide the platform and the environment for these discussions to take place, so that we can find a lasting solution to these problems. Okay. What we have done in Nigeria over the past is bandage solutions to very serious problems. We simplify very complicated problems and we find bandage solutions to them, and we throw the can down the road, and then next administration comes aboard. You see the same issues repeating themselves. We have to do better than that.
The former governor also put out a statement, a former governor of Plateau State to be precise. That's Governor, he's now Senator Jonah Jang, former governor of Plateau State, says, and I quote, perhaps like referencing what the president said, look, it's like the president really needs to know and understand the real situation of things and then be able to do the needful. But he said this, and I quote, "The attacks in Plateau State are not merely communal disputes. They are perpetrated by a known group with a specific agenda." He's been quoted as saying. Again, what does that say to you?
Well, whether it is perpetrated by a known group or not, there must be solution to the problem. If
the point that I'm making, my apologies.
It makes the problem much more easier for us to tackle.
Yeah, just a second, Captain. The point that I'm making is, it would seem like these are known, not abstract elements. They are not ghosts. They are people that are known by some people and in some communities. And it would seem like this has been the system for a while. Former governor of Kaduna State, Governor El Rufai at the time, also said that they know some of these people. And we heard in Zamfara State as well, when the governor of the day also said, we know these people. But why do these problems seem to persist, even though people tend to know the people who are behind these things, perhaps reason for the president's comments? So do you see politics, or is this just sheer security issue?
I said it in my opening statement. There is politics in all of our these things. If the people are known, we know who they are, it makes our problem much more easier for us to solve. Unfortunately, we know the people, but the problems continue to persist for decades now. So that tells you that there is a lot more, probably politics is what is driving that. There are people who are benefiting from this, from what the chaos that is taking place in all these places. And all these people will continue to fight to ensure that that chaos continue to reign. We saw it with Boko Haram. There were people benefiting from the chaos in the Boko Haram ravaged areas. And so those people continue to thrive in that chaos and continue to resist any attempt, any effort by government or anybody to stop the chaos. And so, yes, I can't rule out the possibility of politicians having hands in the problem that is happening in Plateau State, because I find it very difficult to believe that we know the people who are perpetrating these crimes, and yet the crimes continue to take place. So it means that they are being protected by very, very powerful people, either within that area or even outside the area.
But it would seem like, are we then just, you said the other time, you know, we bandage serious issues, or as one of my colleagues would say, we tend to paper over cracks. So do you see this coming to an end indeed? Or it's a cycle that's just going to continue? We understand that the one in Plateau State, for instance, has gone on for about 2 decades.
Yeah. And I've been in your studio several times long ago when I first returned to this country in 2012. Mokwe can attest to that. And we have been discussing this particular issue. Since that time till now, we're still talking about that. Now, if we continue in the direction, the trajectory that we have been going on all this while, I'm sorry, the problem will continue. But, you know, I heard from that statement that was released by Mr. President when he said enough is enough. And I think enough is enough. Now, if we agree that enough is enough, we're going to have to take a different direction. We have to take a different trajectory and take very serious measures to look at these issues, find out who are the people behind it, the reason why they're behind it, and then we dismantle those people and then eliminate those reasons for which they are perpetrating this various violence across all these places. And then until we do that, I am sorry and I'm afraid the violence will continue. It will just come up and then we'll rush in and provide some remedial measures, and then we'll go back to our homes, and several weeks or months down the road, we still see the same thing repeat itself.
Strongly you hold the president's statement in this regard. Do you think that you're seeing sufficient political will to bring this to an end? Because he seems to be asking the governors to do the work. We've been at this for 2 decades, he says, and that this, you know, is rooted in ethnicity and religion, and that they have the tools for solution. He's asked also the military, the security agencies, to be on the offensive with the people causing this carnage. Do you think that this has demonstrated sufficient political, you know, capacity, or will I say interest, to bring this conflict to an end?
No, I don't think that the president will have to do off-hands approach in these problems. You just alluded to the fact that even as the violence were taking place in Plateau State, the same thing was also happening in Benue State. When you have problems across various states, it becomes a federal problem. And so the federal government can't hands off on this problem. They're going to have to get engaged, fully engaged, and even supervise the solution to this problem. Sometimes these problems are far.
Oh dear, it does appear that we have a technical hitch. I'm hoping that... Oh yes, you were frozen for a bit. I see you're back, Captain Bish Johnson.
Okay. Yes, the governors themselves don't have all the tools to solve this problem. Sometimes governors are not the most powerful individuals in their states. There are people more powerful than the governors in their states. And if these people are the ones behind all these atrocities that are taking place in those states, the governors won't be able to solve those problems.
Let me ask you quickly. Sorry to interrupt you. Let me ask you very quickly. We've been discussing this issue, as you rightly said, for years now. How would you say your perspective as somebody who just came freshly to the country, has changed from someone who has now experienced and perhaps understood these issues a bit more?
Well, I think from looking backwards and and trying to answer this question that you just asked right now about how my perspective has changed. You see, I believe that we have enough manpower and the intelligence to solve most of all these problems in Nigeria. But at the same time, I think that politics has eaten so deep into the fabric of Nigeria that complicates the various solutions that have been provided that could have solved some of all these problems. Now, take for example, why should we have cattle roaming the streets in 2025? If you look at the countries where they have people that even produce more, they produce more cattle than we do here in Nigeria, and you don't see cattle roaming the streets. How complicated is it for us to, take what those people have done, bring it back to Nigeria and domesticate them here in Nigeria, and then eliminate that factor? Some people have said it's farmers, herders, clashes. Okay, that can easily be eliminated if we can look at how we can assist those cattle rearers with their cattle, because sometimes too, you see some people say, look, it's a personal business, therefore only them should. No, it doesn't work like that. When something has become a factor in creating violence and crisis that affects everybody, everybody is going to have to make some sacrifice to eliminate that factor. So if we take that off the table, issue of harder farmers clashes, then we'll see what is left. Now, from that, we now begin to tackle those things that are left, and we begin to find the solutions to them. But the thing is that the problem in Nigeria is mostly political, and it's mostly for self-interest. And so long as people are benefiting from the status quo, they will continue to perpetuate their status quo. And that is what I have understood about Nigerian problems. So sometimes it just seems like it's a situation that is very irredeemable.
Part of the reason why the federal government created the livestock ministry was because of this. I mean, it was largely created to be able to see how we can remove that farmer-herders conflict from all of the myriads of conflicts that we're currently facing. It's early days yet, but how optimistic are you that perhaps that ministry might be able to solve at least that singular part of the current conflict that we're seeing?
Well, I know the ministry was just barely created, so we just have to give them that benefit of doubt. Depending on who is running the ministry and how seriously the government wants to take that, I won't foreclose a situation where they're able to find lasting solution to the farmer-herders clashes, because we have to find a way to eliminate that factor. If we don't eliminate that factor, whether it's farmer-herders clashes that is causing this problem, all of them will just hide under farmer-herders clashes and continue to perpetuate other crimes. So we eliminate that factor first, and then we see what is left, and then we'll find a way to begin to deal with whatever that is left. I am hoping that the Minister of Livestock will be able to study this situation and be able to put in a good format that can be followed to solve the problem. I don't see why cattle should be roaming the streets in 2025. I think we have to, it's time we begin to look at what others are doing and do the same thing. We're not the only country in the world that have cattle. And I don't seem to have this kind of problems in all these other various countries where they're rearing cattle. So we should look at what they're doing and bring it down here and domesticate them.
Captain Bish Johnson, well, we hope that we'll catch up with you very soon again. Thank you so much for your contributions on Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Captain Bish Johnson is a retired captain from the U.S. Army and also a security expert. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll be looking at news items for the week, not just what has happened in both Plateau and in Benue State, but also the controversy that keeps brewing in Rivers State. In just a moment, please stay with us.
Draped in red, a symbol of urgency, pain, and resistance, with their mouths gagged and arms tied, these women of Rivers State are making a bold statement that their state has been silenced. They marched through the streets of Port Harcourt on a divine mission to intercede for their state. From the now iconic Isagboro Park around Mile 1, they march through Old GRE, down to the Eastern Bypass, and onto Moscow Road and beyond to Creek Road. Their movements are interspersed with prayers.
Governor Semilai Fubara must be returned back to his elected position. Even the president made that clear by his statement that he is coming back, and we believe he is coming back. The concern I personally have is that when is he coming back?
One by one, others also make their voices heard, crying out in anguish for their governor.
We are saying that we never had any problem in River State. River State is a peaceful state. We, the youth, were going about doing our normal business, and God has been helping us. This state of emergency, I think, is not necessary.
A former commissioner for information in the state weighs in on the situation.
Even at the height of provocation, you can see the place is still peaceful. Nobody's fighting. Even at the height of provocation. How is it that it is only in River State that you suspended democracy? How is it that it is only in River State that you're saying that our governor, the person that we went to the polls to elect, should no longer sit in government house? Who does that?
At the end of the march, they read a communique containing their demands, including an immediate reversal to the state of emergency.
We therefore demand the following without equivocation. Yes, sir. 1, the immediate removal of the River State Commissioner of Police. Yes. CP Olubenga Adepoju. 2, an urgent and total end to the illegal state of emergency imposed on River State. Yes. 3, the full restoration of all democratic institutions, including the restatement of the duly elected governor.
The river's political crisis continues to deepen, and these women have added their voices, not with weapons, but with prayer and protest. From all indications, more protests are likely to take place across the state while the emergency rule lasts. Charles Oporum, Channels Television News.
And so it goes on that we see this protest for and against. For this one, is the second time that we're seeing women come out against the declaration of a state of emergency in River State and the imposition of a sole administrator in the state. We're now being joined by Mr. Laolu Akonde to look at developments in not just River State, but also across the country. It's always good to see you, Mr. Akonde. Welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you.
Well, this is what we're now looking at. But before we saw this protest, I mean, we also saw protests for, you know, I think it was on Sunday we saw that protest, women clad in white. Before that, we had seen women clad in black.
No, women clad in red.
And yeah, well, it does appear that the women who were clad in black are now the same women clad in red. I'm not very certain, but it does appear, because we can see, you know, women come onto the two groups. So it's also possible that they might not be the same groups. Exactly, yeah. But this is what we're seeing. But before this, because of course the state of emergency has now been on for a while, clearly it's still not sitting down well. But what has also come up in this is the announcement by the NBA that it was moving its venue for the hosting of its annual conference to Enugu as a mark of protest, you know, of sorts. And the sole administrator of the state saying, well, if that is the case, give us back the money that, you know, River State used to support you in hosting that particular conference, because we gave it on your understanding that you were going to be holding it in River State. Right. The NBA replies and says, look, it was a gift and it was not tied to any hosting rights. The administrator doesn't let up. He sent out another statement saying, look, you either give us back this gift, which we actually say is tied to, was given on your understanding you're going to host it in our state, or we go to court. Isn't this, you know, would you say it is petty?
Well, I mean, I think that the NBA was right, in my view, to have spoken out against the state of emergency declaration, specifically against the move of the president and the action of the president and the National Assembly to remove the governor and the state assembly. Now, what has happened is that the NBA leaders don't seem to understand that when you stand on principle, it comes at a cost, okay? So you cannot stand on principle and not be willing to take the cost. It comes at a cost. There is a sacrifice that goes with standing on principle. There's a sacrifice that goes with leadership. NBA did the right thing, said the right thing, in my view, but NBA not willing to relinquish the money that is associated with the hosting, whether it's a gift, whether it's a hosting right. NBA was giving the money, state fund, in the understanding, in the context of the fact that you are hosting the event here. Even if it's a gift because NBA says is bringing the event to Port Harcourt. So I will expect the NBA to do the right thing again, stand on principle, return the money. Look, NBA is the Nigerian Bar Association. We have a lot of very rich, stupendously rich lawyers in this country. They can raise the money. As a matter of fact, I'm told by some of the senior members of the bar that over the years, what you do is very subtly behind the scene, you have some of these big-time lawyers who have very deep pockets take care of stuff. Why is the leadership of NBA allowing, this crisis to mess up the integrity of the NBA? They have started doing the right thing, said the right thing, but they need to return the money. If the government says that, okay, look, give us our money back, it's their money. And it was given in the context of the event coming to River State.
Yeah, but does it not matter who gave the money? It's unclear whether it was the sole administrator that doled out the money or whether it was Governor Simfubara while he was, so that gave the money. Wouldn't that also matter? Because as a matter of fact, it is not, if he was the one that gave it, that Simfubara, he's not the one asking for the money back. It is the sole administrator whose legality is still being disputed. So
the point, Marco, is that it is the money of River State.
Are the people of River State asking for their money back?
Well, the people who are in charge of the running of the government of River State are saying that, look, this money was given to you in the context of this event. If you are taking the event away, please give us our money. And I want you to understand my position, Marco. I think that NBA said the right thing, did the right thing, provided leadership when it was needed. But this kind of transactional behavior is appalling. It's appalling. We shouldn't even have NBA having to collect money from NBA. Look, NBA is composed of very successful Nigerian lawyers. How come they can't raise their own money in the first instance? What is the hosting right or gift? Why will NBA need a gift from government to do its own function? It's shameful. It's shameful. So, they should return the money.
Was that not the idea behind letting this out in the public? Because usually, this is not the first time that governors or governments give gifts.
And it's bad.
Was the idea not to, bring it out and let this become some debate of sorts?
It's possible, but that doesn't remove the fact that, we shouldn't find NBA, a group of lawyers, we shouldn't find them enmeshed in this kind of controversy. We're not talking of a group of, who can't afford. Look, NBA is NBA. NBA is not the kind of association that should be going cap in hand, collecting money. It belittles the nobility of the legal profession.
Well, I don't know what Ayo has to ask on this particular issue. Ayo.
Okay. The interesting part, I've been trying to make a quote, actually, Mr. Akonde. When you say that when you stand on principle, it comes at a cost. Do you think that cost was considered on both sides? The possibility of the event being moved? the unlikelihood of a state of emergency and which led to the suspension of the governor as at this time?
Yeah, you're right, Tayo. I don't think that all these issues were taken into consideration. So what we know, that is in the public domain is that when the president acted, in a way that many of us think is out of the Constitution, that doesn't have the powers, and then the National Assembly also approved it, the matter became a fait accompli, okay? And NBA stood out firmly to say that, look, this is not right. And I personally support that, because I couldn't also find the justification for what the president and National Assembly did. Now, what we didn't know was that while NBA was saying all of that, NBA had actually, it suggests a compromise to have I don't know at what point we started to have a situation where, a very strong body, a well-to-do body like NBA has been collecting. We don't know how far this has gone. It's a very poor reflection on that profession. So I was shocked when I even heard that there was any kind of money involved. This kind of transaction, in my view, is one of the things that has brought us as a people to the level of moral, decline that we have, got into in this country. We should get things straight. It ought not to be the business of government to be funding associations that are able to fund themselves.
Interesting.
So you're right. I don't think they consider the cost. What NBA ought to do is to do what is honorable and say, okay, take the money back. As a matter of fact, they shouldn't have waited for the government to be the one to bring out the information. The moment they said that they are moving the convention out of Plateau, they should also announce that we are giving back the money to the state.
But the money, from what you heard, the money is not a hosting right. It's not for hosting right. It's a gift.
Yeah.
Who returns gifts, Mr. Akonde? Who returns gifts?
This is a questionable gift. It's a questionable gift. And I know that we have all gotten used to this idea that, okay, look, if they give you, there's even a saying in my language that, when you are giving money, that you reject it by putting it in your pocket. But the truth of the matter is that, this is something that brings a ridicule to the name of the profession. It's not in good light.
And unfortunately,
and us having this debate.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it's something that is happening at a time when a good number of people are having all kinds of questions about the legal profession in its entirety, not just the judiciary, the entire space of the legal practice. I'm not sure if, as I asked Captain Bishop Johnson the other time, I'm going to ask you the same question. The president declared a state of emergency in Rivers State because of a likelihood or imminent danger or unrest. Now we have two states under attack. The president said in his statement, Abeokuta was gracious to remind us what everybody knows as well, that the situation in Plateau State has gone on for about 20 years. The governor, former governor of Plateau State said, we cannot, that the president needs to know that this is not just a communal clash, that the perpetrators are known. Do you see this as an environment or a ripe stage for another state of emergency? Or you think, no, this is not that bad? Well,
I think you've raised very profound issues, in that question as to the deep-seated causes of what is happening in Plateau and Benue in particular. So, yes, I think that the situation requires a bit more of security deployment, so certainly I won't take out state of emergency from the option, but we are not saying that they should remove the governors. But even more important is the issue that has been raised that, look, we know, the government knows, the community knows the people that are behind this kind of conduct, which the governor of Plateau State has correctly and candidly described as a genocide. So we as a people, we need to address that. And it's not that we are trying to call out an ethnic group, because it is not a problem of ethnicity, it's a problem of criminal behavior. Look, Governor Mufwang has said that in Plateau, there are 60 communities that have been taken over by intruders. They kill the people, scare them away from the land, and they are occupying those places as we speak. 60 communities. And if you look at it, everybody knows who is doing it. There seems to be an uprising that we as a people and government, we are not paying enough attention to. And it's a criminal uprising. It is organized. The way that it is going from place to place, these are not just sporadic attacks. There is an organized movement, criminal movement, that is doing this, and it has been going on for a long time. I think the time has come for us as a people and the government to begin to take a very decisive approach to this problem.
I'm going to quote the statement that I quoted to Captain Johnson the other time. Jonah Jang said, "The attacks are perpetrated by a known group with a specific agenda." If this was known, if this group was known, and the agenda was known, then, Mr. Akone, what is stopping us from dealing with this issue once and for all?
Yeah, I think we have been fighting shy. The leadership of this country over the years, and not just now, I've been fighting shy of dealing with this problem frontally. And that's the truth. I don't know how many more of our citizens we have to die, we have to be killed, we have to be taken away from their land before we understand what the problem is. We have people taking over other people's land and living in it. And these people are identified. It is a behavior that has gone on for a long time. It has become a pattern. We know where they are even hiding. I mean, it's just something that we have just tried to pretend as if, no, that is not what is going on. But I think it is becoming more and more compelling, and it's becoming more and more difficult for us to ignore it. I think, honestly, we are getting close, to resolving this matter. That's my hopeful view.
Does the president's statement provide any comfort? Are you hopeful that something different might have happened this time around? Because he ordered the security agencies to now be on the offensive, which sort of suggests that it would seem that they had been on the defensive.
Yeah, well, I know personally that the president would like to solve the problem. What I'm not sure of is whether the president is prepared to go the whole hog, to not be shy. I know that, yes, he's concerned, he's worried, and I assume, I believe that he understands the nature, but that statement is still, still below par. In terms of what he ought to be saying, is still below par.
What about doing?
Well, that's my point. So the president, for instance, in that statement, one of the ones that released earlier this week, he was saying that, well, look, I've told Governor Mufwang what to do. No, this is not just happening in Plateau. It's also happening in Benue. It's even happening in other parts of the country. So it's the president that has the bully pulpit and the control of the instrument of force and coercion to bring this thing to an end. It is the president that we need to advise to sit up and do what it takes to end this. And guess what? He can, because I have inside information that is really worried about him. Whether he will be able to lift himself up and do what ought to be done is a different ballgame. And that is what we are urging, that the time has come for us as a people and as a government to put an end to this injustice.
Well, I think it's a fine place to leave it. Mr. Laolu Akonde, a former presidential spokesperson, is our guest. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Well, that's where we leave today's edition of Sunrise Daily. It's a day before Good Friday. I believe that your Easter plans are already set in motion. Tomorrow is a public holiday. We have to thank you so much for watching. I know that Ini will also be telling you how the markets will be behaving on the hour. But thank you for being a part of the program. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
And I'm Ayo Makide. Do enjoy the rest of your day. A beautiful day.